All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Cleaning Hustle. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Lexi Schindler. Hey, Lexi, how's it going today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Are you having a good time?
Oh, such a great time.
All right. I feel your raw enthusiasm. All right, cool. So today we're going to talk about a day in the life of Lexi Schindler. So recently, Lexi has decided that she wants to become part of Integrity Facility Solutions. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to record your journey as we get started. So how long have you been at Integrity now?
About 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks. So how's it going so far?
It's good. I'm hopefully about to close my first deal.
All right. So tell everybody what role you're playing right now.
Right now, I'm one of the sales reps, but I'm also part of the new program, so I'm over the RAD team as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, RAD's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is very cool.
You like RAD?
I like it. I'm really excited to get it implemented.
Cool. So how old are you?
20. I will be 21 in 4 days.
All right, so you're 21 years old. You're getting involved in your dad's business. So let's talk through that journey. So what was kind of your mindset? I know you went to school to be a paramedic and your EMT and some medical stuff. And so talk to me about your mindset and what made you want to get involved in the janitorial business?
Really because of you. One day I know that you're going to want to retire and do your own thing. And
so you're trying to push me into early retirement?
No, I just, you've worked so hard for 20, 30 years on this business. And I kind of just woke up one day and was like, I don't want all of that to go to waste. I love the people that work here. I love everything that you've done and how much it's grown. And just me personally, I didn't want to see that go away or potentially go to someone who wasn't going to continue growing it and have the business flourish in the way that you have it. So I just kind of woke up one day and was like, you know what? I don't want all of that to happen one day. So, I'm still in medic school, still do EMT part-time because that's kind of two passions right now here and there. So we'll see how all of that works out. But it's really because of you and how good of a role model you are.
Well, thank you. So talk about your medical past and what put you in the EMT world.
I really got into the EMT world because I always wanted to help people, but I always told everyone I didn't want to go to 12 years of medical school to become a doctor. And I love adrenaline. I love running around. I love the crazy things like when people's hands are in half. I think it's really cool when other people would think it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, not me.
So I love the call to action, the adrenaline you get, but I also love that we're helping people on the other side of things. Another reason I got into it was because right before I finished EMT school, I discovered that ambulances don't carry insulin. And as you know, I'm type 1 diabetic. And I've had a lot of friends pass away. And I figured if I was going to do anything about that, I kind of had to be in the world and know what was going on before I could take action to that.
Yeah, I know that's near and dear to your heart. And when you told me that they didn't have those medical supplies, I was like, what? They don't have insulin in an ambulance? What is the deal with that? That is crazy. So, well, since we're a Cleaning Hustle podcast, I thought it would be really cool for us to just talk about cleaning as a whole, as an industry. And we got a lot of really cool things rolling out in our company. And so I want you to talk a little bit. I know that this is new and you're only here for, I've only been here a couple of weeks, but you've seen the business grow since you were a kid. And, I don't know that you were that connected with the actual size and growth because you were just being a kid, which I wanted you to do. So from your perspective as a child to what you see now, what have you seen in the growth and what we've accomplished as a family and as an organization?
For one, as far as I can remember, you were in a tiny one office on an airport, the first office that I remember. So you grew from a one office, not even in a business park or building or anything, to now having 30, 40 offices up here and having your total own space. So, just from the building and size aspect, you can see how much it's grown here. But also the people and just customers as well. I'll hear people talking and I'm like, I heard that we had them 20 years ago. So it's the fact that we're keeping the same customers, but working on the sales side, I see how many new people we're getting every day and just the size of how many customers we've had then when I was growing up to now just kind of shows a lot as well with the employees. I remember when we had 2 or 3 people in the office max. Now we have like 50.
Yeah.
We have like multiple states, multiple offices, so you can definitely tell just how the business is growing that way as well.
Yeah. So what do you when you came to me and said you wanted to be involved in the business, you talked a little bit about legacy and what legacy was to you. What do you think legacy is? Define legacy.
I mean, to me, it's continuing what you have grown. I don't want to take this company and transform it to something different because that's disrespectful to everything that you've done here. So it's just taking what you've done, continuing it, the vision that you wanted that way. That's what, like, I'm here for. Like, I don't plan on changing anything unless, like, just, like, growing wise. But in, like, principles and practices and how close, like, everyone is as a family here. Like, just continuing what you have already built and making it so much better.
So what do you think about culture when you think about our culture here in the office? How would you describe our culture?
I mean, it's super fun. I mean, I'm not a morning person, and I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to come here, and I'm genuinely excited.
Yeah.
Like, I love hanging out with the people here. Like, when someone's like, oh, do you want to go get lunch? I'm excited about it. I'm not like, I have to spend more time with this person.
Right.
So everyone here is so sweet. They're so genuine. Everyone here works hard. I don't feel like there's a single person here where I'm like, oh, well, we have to pick up their slack. Or, like, they're like, well, can you just do that for me? Like, I just feel like everyone here is so genuine, sweet. It is really like a family. Like, I don't even feel like these are my friends. Like, Chris the other day was like, you do know you're a part of my family, right? And I consider you like my daughter.
Right.
So it's like everyone here is just like the culture could not be better.
How do you think that they accepted you coming in?
I was really nervous. And, I was talking to people and I was like, I don't want just because I'm your daughter, everyone to treat me different or think I just had like a free pass coming in here. So I was really nervous walking in, but I think so far everyone's taken to it really well. And I think it's mainly because I do work and I'm not just sitting there and I'm like, oh, well, he's my dad, so I don't have to do anything.
Right.
Know?
So they see that you don't feel that sense of entitlement.
Well, yeah, and that was the one thing I didn't want. Like, and I told you that coming in here, I didn't want special treatment just because I was your daughter or anything like that. Not that they definitely don't treat me like any other employee. Like, I was accepted really quickly, but that's because I've been to every Christmas party. I've hung around them a lot. But I don't feel like anyone's treated me different just because I'm related to you.
Yeah, you don't feel like they got like scared or like, oh no, what is she doing here now?
Yeah, no. And I definitely, like, even when they talk to me, I don't feel like they're trying to hold back just because they think I'm going to run and tell you everything.
Well, and I told them, I said, treat her just like a regular employee. So we talked a little bit about your plan. Now you're working in the sales department right now, and your goal, tell me your primary goal in the sales department.
Right now it's to close my first deal. I do want to like grow in this company like everyone else. I want to obviously be promoted one day and work my way up the chain like everyone else. Right now I'm just trying to get deals, and then switching over to this new program I think will help a lot more because our volume will be higher, but still just learning everything, trying to get my first deal, but also trying to get my first multi-tenant because I think that would be really big. So those are like the 2 goals that I'm working towards right now.
Yeah. So what are you doing to get to those goals? What do you map that out over the next couple of months?
Well, right now I'm just trying to get as many leads out as I can. I'm calling, I'm showing up in person. I'm following up with people already just because I am trying to get those deals out there. With this new system, it'll be a lot easier because we have Zoom info and all of that coming in, so our leads will be really solid for me to start closing more deals. On the multi-tenant side, there's still just a lot to learn, so it's a lot of shadowing Danny Keels and Chris right now, just because if I got an appointment with a multi-tenant right now, I definitely could not go in there.
Like, I'm blind, I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. So that's just still a lot of leaning on the team on that one, which they're all really good when you need help of doing whatever you need. So still a lot of learning since I'm new.
So I get told a lot, and I don't know because I'm obviously not female, but I do talk to multiple female business owners and different females in our industry. Now, you've only been in it a couple of weeks, but they tend to tell me that the cleaning industry is kind of a man's world, kind of like a mechanic's shop. So have you thought about that? Has anybody said anything to you in those terms?
See, it's different for me because as my second job as an EMT, it really is a man's world.
That's true.
I think the statistic for that is 1 female for every 200 men in the EMT world. And like on my shift, there's only 1 other girl. And there's like 30 or 40 of us. So I'm already used to, working in a man's world. And it's funny because here I don't see that. And maybe it's just because I'm exposed to the really extreme side of things where it really was a man's job for the longest time. I definitely think that, like, women in general get treated differently. Like, even when I'm on walkthroughs, like, I'll see guys ignoring, like, Danny or Chris and just, like, doing double takes at me. Just, like...
Well, that you can work that to your advantage, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, even Chris was like, hey, like, he told me one time, he was like, hey, this guy's kind of been, like, not really answering me. You want to see him, if he'll get in there and answer you. And it's like, as soon as I got in there, he was like, yeah, I'll have a meeting with y'all. So it's like, it's definitely a good tactic sometimes to try to close more deals because men are like, oh, a woman.
Right. So it actually works to your advantage. It's not a disadvantage at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because men try to be, most 90% of the time, they try to be a lot more respectful towards women because, they want to be on your good side.
Right. That's cool. That's cool. So what do you want to accomplish in this business moving forward, besides putting me in early retirement?
I just really want to keep growing the business. I already have a lot of ideas. I know we're in a lot of different cities and states, but I just want to keep expanding what we're doing, growing more people to the team as we need it. Like I said, over the years, I've just seen how much this has grown, and I know how much more it can grow, especially with all of the new systems coming into place. I definitely think this could be a lot bigger than we are now as soon as we get rolling and everything. So my only goal is to keep growing this as much as we can together and adding more awesome people to this team.
So let's talk about your childhood entrepreneurialism. I can remember when you were a child, you did multiple entrepreneurial things. Can you think of a story off the top of your head?
I mean, I'm pretty sure twice a week I was out there with lemonade stands and snack tables in the driveway trying to sell things. I mean, all the time. I was like, I'm going to go set up a table and sell things. But even with the business, I remember I used to beg y'all to come in and ask you if I could do phone interviews and call people. I used to just want to get in here and call everyone. So I remember I was like 9 years old interviewing subcontractors to put into buildings and filling out the like little paper forms that y'all used to have. And I was like so excited just to be able to call people.
Yeah, I know. And you actually did a really good job at it. I think you got a lot of recruits out of that. So that was pretty cool. So, yeah, I was thinking about all the different entrepreneurial things. And I remember early in your career when you said you wanted to go to college, and you said a lot to me in a lot of times, hey, I really don't want to be involved in the business. That's your business. And I want to find my own path, and I want to do my own thing. And, in our family, we respected that. I wanted you to get into education. I wanted you to kind of sort out your own path and figure out what that is. I did similar things when I was younger. I pursued aviation. I did, and I think it always goes full circle to bring you back. But I always, as your dad, watching you grow up and watching you always do these little entrepreneurial things. And I always tell everybody the story of how you raised the money for Echo, and you had the garage sale, and I forget how much she cost, but she was like $12,000 or something like that.
I think she was like around like 10, because I remember that garage sale. I think we raised like $3,500, and then her vet was really sweet. And I remember they set up a fund there, and I remember we had a really sizable donation for like $1,000, which that last donation was like what put us over the edge to be able to get her. Yeah.
So I watched you as a child, as I said, growing up, and I always knew, I was like, this girl's an entrepreneur. I could not see you working a regular job, a 9 to 5. And so then you went the EMT path, and early on you talked about maybe even being something with children. I forgot what it was now. A child pediatric surgeon.
Yeah, pediatric surgeon. I just, when it came to that, is like I didn't want to do all the schooling. It's like 4 years of college, 6 years of medical school, then you have like 6 years of residency, and then 2 years of something else. It's like 15 years before you even get a chance to make a dollar. So like, and I'm still in college now. I think I have like 1 or 2 semesters left, and that is obviously not something in this realm, but I think I originally wanted to go to college just because, one, it's always good to have a degree no matter what, but I also wanted the experience. Every teenager's like, oh, I want to go to college and like have the experience and everything, joined a sorority and all of that. So I mean, like, I left early to do it online, but like I don't regret any of it because I at least got that experience. I got to live in a tiny dorm room and
Yeah.
do all of the fun college things. So
And you can't, nothing replaces that experience. Probably one of my regrets I started in janitorial when I was 16, so never really got the opportunity for that whole experience. So I felt it was super important for you to get that experience and live that life before you got thrust into the adult world. You know, as you always say, like, I hate being in the adult now, so you got these responsibilities as an adult and all that fun stuff. So if there's a 21-year-old or younger or maybe mid-20s person watching this, I can think of a few. I've got a few different business owners that I know that their kids are involved in the business. What piece of advice would you give somebody that's thinking about this, or maybe they're in and they're trying to navigate through this like you are? What would be a piece of advice that you think of as you're kind of thinking about the next couple of years and onboarding with IFS and coming through and learning and doing all those things? What are the advice you would give someone else?
I think the number one piece of advice that I would give is just to try it out. If you're not sure, if you don't know if you're going to fit in, like in the past year, I went through, like when I moved back to Dallas, I went from, I'm just going to finish college and dog walk on the side to I'm going to go to aviation school to now I'm going to EMT school. Now I'm in paramedic school. Now I'm here. And it's like, I really even now I get confused sometimes with like what the future looks like, but you don't know until you try. So I think the number one thing is like, even if you don't succeed, at least you can say you give it your best shot. And like, don't be afraid to like tell them no. Like even with you, I used to tell you all the time, like, no, I don't want that. And I was like, even if it hurts your feelings, you would rather me say no than for me to come in and not do anything and just be miserable and not put effort in. So I would just say try. But if you don't even want to try, then just be honest with your parents or with whoever it is. Because if you're 20 years old, you can go through 10 careers and still be 23, 24 and have your whole life to live. So just try everything until you find something you love.
Yeah, I think it's important to do that at an early age because, you know, you get older, you get set into a career path, and then you got family, you got kids, you got responsibility, you got mortgage payments and cars, and it's not as easy to jump out of a career at that point, you know, and then when you're older, it's harder to learn because your brain doesn't work as well. And so, and my advice to the parents out there would be the same: is don't put a lot of pressure on your kids about this. You know, if you're a business owner and you really want your kids to take over the business, don't put pressure. Let it come naturally. Let it work itself out, and then always be open-ended to whatever that conclusion is. Like when we started this whole concept of you coming on with IFS, we did it kind of as a 2-3 phase program, and I said, you know, let's work a week. Let's see how you like it. And then you think about it, process it. If you think that it's something you want to do, then we'll commit to 6 months. And then at the end of 6 months, we'll look at it again, evaluate it, process it. And I think that you and I have the open understanding that at any point, if you're like, you know what, this was cool, I tried it out, but this business is really not for me. You've done a great job, Dad, but I'm going to go move myself to a different career. I'm going to try something different. I think because I think where conflict happens is where there's not that open dialogue, not that open communication, and then the child-parent relationship is a lot of expectations built on, well, I want my kid to take over the business or really help me with the business, and the kid is like, I really don't want to do that. So as long as there's that open communication and dialogue, and that's really a twofold, and I think probably from what I see, it's a lot of pressure from parents too. So I hope I've done a good job not putting pressure on you.
You have. You've let me go down all my 20 avenues of careers and everything. So
I remember I met one of my good friends. He's still a good friend of mine today. And I walked into his house this was probably 15, 20 years ago. And he had a really small house in Garland. Now he's a super wealthy guy right now, but this was back when he was kind of starting out in his business. And I walked into his house, and he had a baby grand piano sitting in the living room. And I'm like, how did you even get that thing in the front door, right? And I said, what in the world? He goes, yeah, my son wants to learn to play the piano. And I was like, wow, that's kind of extreme. You know, he could have just got piano lessons. He didn't need to buy a baby grand and put it in your little small house. And he's like, well, you know, it's kind of symbolic of the freedom to learn and the freedom to learn new through process and all that. And ironically enough, I think he played the piano for maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little longer than that, and he never touched it again. And so I went to my friend and I said, do you regret going through all of and this was long before you were born, so this is a lot of where that was instilled in me. And he said, not at all. He said, we give him the opportunity to explore. We went through that. Now we know without a doubt that he never wants to play piano. He never has to think about it again. He never has to wonder. So I think it's super important that when you're in life, you try things, because it's always going to, I have friends that are in their 50s that have wanted to do certain things, never even got off the starting block, never even tried it. And now they're 50 years old and they're regretting. They're like, man, I wish I could have done this. I should have done that and all that. And some of that's limited by resource. Sometimes they don't have the financial means to try certain things. But I've always been an advocate of try it. It's a lot of time in IFS, we talk a lot about the freedom to fail. And so the freedom to fail is really like, it's a twofold thing, is we're trying stuff to see if we like it. We might fail at it. If we do, okay, because we remember that failure is an event, not a person, and so failure is going to happen. But then the freedom to fail also teaches us that if we're failing, that means we're pushing the envelope. We're constantly pushing the envelope. And so I think in personal growth, as you start to mature and you start to grow into the business, that if you have that mindset of freedom to fail, that you're going to push the envelope. You're going to try things new. It's like you were mentioning earlier with the RAD program. This is all uncharted territory for me. It's a completely new concept in our business and in our industry. It could fail, but when you try something new, you have to go all in. And that's going all into, like, we're building new offices, we're rebranding a lot of things. And a lot of times going all in costs a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be here 10 years from now and saying, wow, I really wish we could have tried that program, or we should have done this, or we should have done that. We tried it. Hey, who knows? It could be super successful and we do $50 million off that program. We don't know. And so I think the word of encouragement for whether it's kids your age or old people like me is that we definitely, no matter what, try. If you fail, at least you tried. If you try it and you don't like it, at least you know you don't like it, right?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, growing up, I don't think there was something I didn't do. I tried every single sport. I did theater. I did singing. Anything you could think of, I probably tried it and did it. Am I a good singer? No, I'm terrible. Am I good at acting? No, not really. So it's like, I agree with that. And, I even have the mindset of, like, you're never too old to try something new. Just because I'm such a big advocate, like, I've always told you growing up, I'd rather love my job and not make any money than make a lot of money and hate my job.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just a really big advocate on whatever makes you happy. And if trying something new is that, then you should do it. If it's what you're doing, then keep doing it. But there are multiple avenues that can make you happy. You just have to keep trying new things and see what sticks. So, I mean, I agree with everything you said 100%.
I think people end up, especially, I'm coming on the backside of being in this business with the IFS for 22 years, but actually, 40 years, I'm not that old, 30 plus years of, being in different careers, being in this industry. And it's super important. Just try it, try it. And if you're not good at it, then so be it. It's kind of like the venture of just exploring. Like right now I'm doing a lot of different things that I'm exploring that I haven't committed to, because I want to see if I'm good at it, if I bring value to people and what I bring for them. And then whether it's something I want to monetize or not really comes down to, if I enjoy it and I want to do it, then it's easier to monetize because you want to do it. You're passionate about it. If you don't enjoy it, then it's not going to monetize, because you're going to start with a bad attitude, or you're going to be like, oh, I really don't want to do this, or different things. And I think it's also important to push yourself outside your comfort zone. We were in a leadership meeting the other day, and we were talking about kind of like the 10 traits that people talk about. And the number one thing that was on that list was public speaking. And so it's like I've committed myself to multiple things in the public speaking arena over the next few months. In fact, one is tonight. and it's not necessarily an area that I'm comfortable or that I love, but I know that it's a developed skill. And so there are things that you have to do in life that may be a developed skill, that once you develop the skill, then you can become passionate about it. Because a lot of times people don't want to try something because they're not good at it, but they never develop the skill to become good at it. And then once they become good at it, they're like, wow, I really enjoy doing this because now I'm good at it. So a lot of times it's things that we don't enjoy. It's because we're not good at it, but we develop the skill to become better. And then we find out later that we enjoy it. So I think that's a big part of that piece that you were talking about, is to always try new things, because then you might discover, wow, this is something that I really enjoy. You know, like right now, the big rave is pickleball. So I've never tried pickleball. I don't know if I'd like it or if I'd hate it, but what I need to do is go try it and see if it's something that I could love. And so it's that piece of, you know, invitation of saying, yes, you got to blow your nose.
It's like running out. I've been trying to like get back in.
Bring me a bottle of water since we're taking a break here. And this won't be edited out either.
It was like running down my nostril. I was like, I can't hold it in anymore. Ugh.
This is Matthew, the camera guy, if you can see him on the camera.
Okay.
You feel better now?
It was like literally.
Is it
like,
because this room is like an ice box?
Probably. Well, I'm actually pretty warm right now.
Yeah, the temperature seems to come up once we close the doors. All right, what were we talking about? We were talking about
Pickleball.
Pickleball, doing something new and different.
Well, I think too, it's a lot of people don't give it time. Like if they're not good at it the first time they do it, it's like, okay, well then I'm done. But it's like, one, you have to give it time, and two, even if you're not good at it, there's no reason that you can't do it and enjoy it. Like I was talking about earlier, like I'm terrible at singing, but I sing all the time. I did musical theater. I did pretty much anything that revolves around singing, but I'm not good at it, but I did it because it made me happy and I enjoyed it. So I think the number two pieces, or like the two big pieces with trying new things, are one, to give it time, because you're not going to be good at something right away. Like you're not going to get out on the pickleball court and be good. It took me probably 3 months before I even really knew how to play pickleball. And now I can probably beat a lot of people, but still not any
Except
good.
for Matthew.
You know, so it's like, one, it takes time. And two, even if you're not good at it, there's no reason. Like if you decided to go try and play pickleball and you tried it for a year and you were still the worst player out there, there's no reason that you still can't do it if you think it's the best sport in the world.
Yeah, and if you enjoy it, who cares, right? Because then at the end of the day, if it's something you enjoy, you're not trying to be a champion at it. You're just going to do something you enjoy. So why not, right?
Yeah.
So earlier you talked about, here's a philosophy that I've struggled with since you were young. And now that you're older, I can ask you this question. So as you were growing up and we had mutual friends that had kids, and you listen to different preachers or you listen to different people on parenting, one of the things they talk about is commitment. So like if you're going to play volleyball or you're going to do whatever it is you're going to do, you're being committed to that to the end. And so I hear parents that teach their kids, like, hey, if you're going to commit to playing this sport, you're going to play out the whole entire season. And my thoughts on that have always been, I mean, I believe there's been times where we quit stuff mid-season because you were like, I'm over it. Like, I don't like the girls on my team. I don't like a certain whatever. And so I can remember times when you quit certain things. And so what is your thoughts and opinions on that piece of, because obviously commitment and valuing commitment and saying you're going to see something through to the end is super important. But back to what we were saying earlier, the flexibility of trying something, and then if you get to a certain point where you're like, I tried it, I don't like it, but then forcing yourself to complete that or whatever it is. So what is your thoughts on that as growing up, as you've navigated through different sports and things over the years?
I think if your commitment and you decide to quit is going to affect a lot of people, I think you should play it out. But if you're going to commit to something and then decide halfway through that you're done and then you're going to sit on the sidelines like a bump on a log, then at that point I'm like, yeah, just go ahead and quit. You know, like if you're going to decide to stick it out, you have to continue to put effort in. But if you decide halfway through a season, like, hey, this isn't for me, but you were already sitting on the bench all season, I don't see a point in quitting. If you are playing high school softball and you're the number one pitcher, number one starter, and you're like, actually, never mind, then it's like, you kind of can't do that. So I definitely think it's like situation to situation basis.
So if you're going to think you're a professional singer and you realize you suck at singing, then you can quit because it doesn't really hurt anybody. You can still sing in the shower and jam your tunes in your car. So it's sort of the commitment based on the dependence of other people then.
Yeah. I think if it's going to really like I said, inconvenience other people, hurt other people, you know, just affect other people negatively in any way, then it's like finish the season. Most seasons are 3 months long. If it's a job, you know, put in your 2 weeks, do your time, do it respectfully. But like if it's going to severely impact other people negatively, do your best with whatever time you have left and just like try to stick it out, because there's no reason in being miserable with whatever time you have left. Just acknowledge like, okay, like if it's a sport, like, okay, it's halfway through the season, I've decided this isn't for me. I'm going to stick the season out, and this will be my last season, you know? So then at least you know when it will be over, but you're not, like, detrimentally impacting other people.
Yeah, so it's back to what we said earlier. Communication is key, whether that's with your coworkers, with your bosses, with your coaches. Communicate where you're at in the process. And I think that's important, you know, as an employer or as a boss. You know, I want my team to communicate. I tell my team all the time, I'm like, I don't need yes people on my team. I don't need people that agree with me for the sake of agreeing. I need people that challenge me, that call me out when I'm wrong if I don't have the correct information about situations, and making sure that you have all the information so you can make right decisions and not jumping to assumptions. And I think what happens is people live in fear, and so they don't want to share how they feel, or they don't want to tell somebody something because they're afraid to hurt their feelings. They don't want to tell their boss that, hey, they're unhappy. Because I believe that a lot of times you can avert yourself from quitting a job just through simple communication. If you like the job, if you like what you're doing, but there's something that's out of balance, you can communicate those things back into balance, which I think a lot of people miss because they hold it in, they tell themselves the story, they start building the story about this person in their mind, and the next thing you know, this story has gotten really big in their mind, and the reality of it is they could have had one conversation and solved the problem. So that's cool. Well, as you wondered on these podcasts, they go all over the place. So you can pretty much, but the point that I want to make and kind of drive home is that as we move through over the next, you know, little bit here, maybe once a month, you and I'll reconnect on the podcast. And I think it would be kind of fun for everybody that watches the channel to kind of follow your journey, see where you started at IFS, and then in 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, or 10 years from now, they can actually go back and watch your journey through the podcast, which I think is neat because, you know, some of the things when I was young, we didn't have podcasts. We didn't have phones that took pictures.
You didn't have phones at all?
Yeah, we didn't. I had pagers and pay phones. And so there's a lot of missed memories that I would love to be able to go back and say, like, here's the car we started the company in with this little 4 foot by 4 foot trailer, and here's us piled in the car with buffers, and all of those pieces are not there because we didn't have the technology and we weren't going to carry cameras around. And so I think it's neat to be able to chronologically put this together in a podcast and just let people watch your journey. And as they watch your journey, learn something along the way, you can give them your insights and your input on kind of struggles that you've had, conflicts that you have. You know, for me, it's about the raw, being authentic and saying, man, I had a bad day today. It sucked. I didn't get that big deal I wanted to get, or somebody told me no for the 10th time in the sales department, or I'm sick of sales. I want to go work in the ops side or whatever that looks like. We can have those moments where you're being true and authentic, because I believe that that will resonate with people out there that are starting out, that are trying to build their businesses, that are struggling. They have one contract that their life depends on, and they lost that contract. And how does that feel? What does that look like? And so I think it's going to be fun over the next however long we decide to do this to navigate through your journey. So the last point I want to talk about as we close is that we were talking earlier about risk taking. And so it's already a big enough risk to bring in your family members. It's a big risk for me to bring you in, right? But it's an even bigger risk to bring your boyfriend into the business. And so today, your boyfriend, Matthew, it's his first day on the job. So that's a big risk, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that as we close out this podcast. I want to hear from you. We might even make Matthew jump over here in the chair. We'll see. But I want to hear from you on your thought process. You know, obviously there's some personal aspects of that. If, you know, you guys end up getting married and working through all those pieces, but there's a lot of risk involved. There's risk to your guys' relationship. There's just overall a lot of risk. So tell me your thought on that.
Well, and I'll start this off by saying he knows this piece, you know this piece. So, you know, when it first came up, I wasn't really sure. Because, you know, the last guy I dated, I met because we worked together. And when that ended, it was a really big deal because we're working in the same place, 5 feet from each other. And, you know, I quit the day that we broke up because I was like, there's no way I can work with someone that I dated and now we're not together. So at first I was like, you know, I already did that once. This is a terrible idea. But I think with him it's different because one, well, you know, like yesterday, we just put in an application on a house together. And so it's like there's that. And like I'm a very nosy person. So it's like I know when he's buying the ring.
Poor guy, I'm sorry.
I don't know when it's all happening. Obviously, I haven't figured that piece out yet. But I think the part that makes me comfortable about it is that he is so forward on the fact that we have a future together. I've never had that before, you know, and he's kind of like, yeah, we're getting this house together. We are getting engaged this summer, you know, everything. And it's like, if I didn't have that, I would have been like, no. Because at that point, we're just dating with no set plan. But because we're not even just talking about it, it's already in action, I was like, okay, you know, that's fine. And we had a conversation about it beforehand, too. Like, what are we going to do if this doesn't work out? Like, worst case scenario. And, you know, we talked about it and everything. So just like everything else, I think our communication was there. And we're working in separate departments, so we don't have to deal with each other. So work and relationship
that's key.
Don't, you know, collide. He's on the ops side, I'm on the sales side. So we'll work together like once a month. But besides that, you know, it's not like we're working next to each other every single day. Yeah.
That's good. So you've established boundaries. You got a plan. You guys have worked through how you're going to get Dad out of the business. You got your secret behind the scenes plan. Matthew, do you want to sit in this seat and say anything? You want to defend yourself? Either one. Doesn't matter. They're both mic'd.
You guys are both just silently staring at me.
We're like, yes, this is amusing.
What was the question?
So the question really stems about you and her, and you have to put the mic kind of close so we can pick you up there.
Awesome.
There you go. About you and her really just working in the same space together, and how do you navigate through that? Because early in the podcast we were talking about like risk taking and what is that? So you two sitting there across the table from me and both of you committing to IFS and what we're trying to accomplish here is a huge risk for me. Most people tell me I'm crazy for even thinking about doing this.
Yeah.
So what is your perspective on the job opportunity, working with your girlfriend? Like, what does that look like?
No, I mean, it's definitely an exciting opportunity, and I tried to not think of the what ifs at first, but you kind of have to in any situation like that. And so I always definitely thought about that first. And we, like she said, we talked about it, and I told her, I'm like, this is work. If anything other than that, we have to leave it at the door before we walk in or leave it at home, and we can deal with it then. But we've done it a very good job at least talking it over. And I've had something, not somewhere, obviously I've never worked with someone I've been in a relationship with, but I just got done working with my older brother. We worked in different things, but I told him too, I'm like, you're my coworker at work, you're my brother outside of work. So I was like, other than that, I was like, we need to leave all that separate. And I see the opportunity as a good thing for myself as well as for the both of you as well, and trying to do my best to help the company grow as well.
So, have you guys ever told you the coat rack story?
No.
So, this was something I was actually going to share with the two of you. And so, since we're on here, it's a perfect opportunity. But the coat rack is, and we're real close to the front door here, but you can visualize there's a coat rack at the door.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is when you come to work, you take off your coat of your personal problems, you take off your coat of whatever happened personal, and you set it on the coat rack, kind of like Mr. Rogers used to do back in the day, right? And you just leave it at the door, and so you don't bring that stuff into the office. Mm-hmm. And then you pick up another coat, which is your work coat, and you put that coat on. And then you work throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, you take that coat off, your work coat, and you put it on the coat rack, and you pick up your personal coat, and you put it back on. That might not be a problem, that might not be an issue, but early on, your mother and I, that was really how we worked well in the business early on, was that we knew and understand whatever was happening in our personal life could not affect our work life. And so I came up with the coat rack analogy early on, as in, okay, I'm going to leave my problems at the door and I'll pick them up at the end of the day, because they're still going to be there at the end of the day waiting for me. Mm-hmm. And so you guys, my advice to you is that if you're having those tips or you're having those, whatever they are, don't bring them into the office, leave them on the coat rack, and you guys can pick them up at the end of the day. Or if you need to have a lunch break, you can pick it up and go box it out during lunch or whatever you need to do. But that served me well, and that worked well for us early in business, was because there's an old saying that says, never let them see you bleed. And one of the pieces of emotional intelligence as a maturing adult is that you don't bring your problems into the workplace. You don't ever let your employees know, or in your case, your coworkers know that there's a battle or a conflict. You could just be screaming at each other in the car and then come into the office and it's game on. We're here to work, and you guys treat each other with respect professionally, and you both know your lanes. You're staying in your lanes, and you guys are doing your jobs accordingly. Mm-hmm. And so that's my piece of advice to you. Again, this can be super exciting and super fun, and we can build an empire together, or this could be a colossal failure. I'm hoping that we can build an empire together. This is all part of, since Matthew is coming into the family, this is family now. And so to be able to take a business and make it family, a lot of people in our industry know the R brands of family, which is Ricky and his family. And I think the last count I had was he has 24 family members. And I was talking to him, and I'm like, man, I don't know how you do that. He goes, trust me, we have our issues, we have our things. But I think for us moving forward, it's really about mapping out expectations, treating certain aspects of it, like with you had to sign an employee agreement. Everything is as it was with any other employee. The same with you. We haven't quite got yours mapped out yet because we're still tweaking your KRA. But, it's really about being professional and courteous with one another, running a business the way that we should run the business. And then if we have personal problems with each other, we can deal with that after hours. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, I'm excited to have both of you here. It's going to be a great journey. And I guess we'll end the podcast here. So thanks for coming on. Thanks, Mr. Cameraman, for
thank you.
On. He didn't know it yet, but he's going to take over the media. Well, I guess he knows it now. I informed him yesterday or the day before. So I'm constantly adding and changing. So the key to working for me is being super flexible and, kind of rolling with the punches, because things change rapidly in anything in the business world. I always say, if you don't bend, you break. So you have to be super flexible, but you also have to know your lane. And so staying in your lane and doing the job that you're determined and paid to do, but then being flexible to be able to help your teammates and help everybody succeed. Because at the end of the day, IFS, our organization, is its own entity. What happens in business is it starts out as a little mom and pop thing, and then it becomes its own human being, or so to speak. It's its own thing. Like IFS is no longer Dan Schindler. It is now a moving, living organism. And so if you think about it in those terms, we're all growing the business together. It's not Dan Schindler's business. It's our business together. And the key in anything, whether it's a job or a business, is to take ownership in your role and to be able to work through those roles so that we can all push the company up together. And so, anyway, that's what it's all about. So, thanks for joining me today. Had a great time.
Yeah.
Me too. I had fun.
All right, cool.